I'm looking here and I see a great question that came in from Jason. It says, while on the surface, employer brand work resembles marketing in its execution and tactics, the development of messaging can't follow the same marketing think tank processes without incorporating authentic employee feedback on their experiences. What are your thoughts about that? I mean, we just talked a little bit about this kind of cookie cutter approach, and this question gets right to that. And I'm glad you're not about political correctness, because neither am I. And I think we need to speak truth to power. But this is a big topic, and especially internally, if you have that strong marketing department and then you've got your employment branding group trying to work. What are your thoughts on here?
I love this question and comment by Jason. Here's what I would say to that. When you, I love to use analogies and parallels here. So as you begin to make a cake, you're going to use some flour, some eggs, maybe a little sweetener. And now you need to determine, is this going to be a chocolate cake? Is this going to be an angel food cake? So everything starts at its base, right? Then you start to layer on. So I totally agree with Jason. When you get to employment branding, it needs to be specific. You need to do some testing with your team to identify and make sure that is what you're about to say going to be well received. Consumer marketing does the same thing. And does this product taste good? Do you like this? Do you not like this? Am I saying it the right way? So doing that with your teams as well will help you to refine that message. But it all starts at the base, and then you layer on the layers specifically for employment branding and marketing to attract those candidates that you most want to attract in.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I think one of the things for us to really sum up is you've got to have your leadership team bought in and taking real steps. And you've got to have your internal employee base believing in the company, believing in what you're doing, and out there talking about it. You know, I talked about Glassdoor. I talked about the LinkedIn page. I talked about your career site and all those things. Once, let's say you got that buy-in, you've got people there, and now your boss has come and said, "Hey, go make our brand be more inclusive." What are some things that you could use to really help them get to the point where they've got a strategy and a framework about how they're going to go make this be more inclusive? And then more specifically, I want to talk about some of the tools, but I'd like to get your high-level discussion, and I want to talk about some of the tools that you can use to kind of fix some of the messaging to make sure it's inclusive.
So that's a very tactical question.
Yeah.
Can I jump back one step? I know you do a lot of consulting in your work, and you just talked about getting executive buy-in on what the strategy is. Let's come back to your question to me, but I want to kick a question to you. How do you communicate and work with the executives that you're consulting to, one, get them to buy into the importance around a diversity employment brand, and how do you instruct them to drive that down through the organization? Because that will set us up for the tactical application in a moment. But can I ask you that question? How do you do that, and how are you successful with your customers?
Yeah, I think the big thing that makes it success when you're working with the executive leadership team is you've got to speak in a language that they understand, right? They understand business outcome, business needs. There's certainly the component of this is just the right thing to do that people will eventually get to. But when you talk to them about the impact of building a diverse and inclusive workforce and what that's going to mean, because the demographics in the country are changing. So we could talk all day about the business case for diversity, how teams are going to be more productive, more impactful. The big thing is, if you can reach those communities that you normally aren't reaching, it's going to increase your consumers. People are going to buy from you if they know you, they relate to you, and they like you. And that means the strategic focus on creating a diverse and inclusive workforce hits the business bottom line. It hits your revenue stream, because if you are not in the game and you don't have those diverse candidates and diverse consumers, you're gonna go out of business. And so the leaders understand the financial impact of it. They also understand the revolving door and the cost associated with having to replace people. I think retention starts with recruiting, and recruiting starts with the leadership. And so if you've got leaders who are engaged, more diverse, and focused on diversity, that's going to give you a better opportunity to retain people who then create products and services that your customers or your future customers want to buy. But I think when you're engaging the leaders, it has to have that component of there is a financial implication and there is a brand implication that we're going to have to stay relevant if we are creating more inclusion. And then I showed them some data and I showed them some numbers on what that means, right? So it allows them to then make a data-driven decision. And it also lets them really increase from being a tactical, service-oriented, people need to go find, or marketing people need to go create these. It's not about advertising, right? The brand is more about appealing and making that emotional connection, but getting it up to the next level, you've got to apply the business focus of what the outcomes are going to be by being more inclusive. And that means knowing who's our customer, right? And so you create these personas of who's our customer, who do we hire, who do we want to hire, how do we engage them? Do we just go out and do a bunch of tactics, or do you have a strategy where you're going to reach them on a national level, a local level, a regional level, or an international level if you're a multinational company? And we work with a number of multinationals that have to consider broadly the financial implication of not relating to a potential client or potential candidate basis. And we're seeing that more and more now as fewer people want to move and relocate. Companies are having to get more thoughtful, and leaders are having to get more supportive of new ways of doing things.
Yeah. So I love that you tied it to the financial aspect. Oftentimes the C-suite is just driven by the numbers, the financial numbers. Is this going to increase our profits by X because I have shareholders to respond to answer to?